What
blue.
is it though? What's that little thing?
That's my it's way back in the background. Is the little YouTube flag, but I have an LED light in front of it, so I can choose the color remotely.
Ah,
Pretty fancy.
fun.
Pretty fancy stuff.
Okay. Hector, you are up on all the latest.
I can also turn off the light and just make it dim.
All right, so we're streaming live on YouTube. Speaking of which, so let me go ahead and start the webinar so we can let some folks in. All right, and I will share my screen so we can see. Whoop, there we go.
Uh-oh. Somebody busted the laundry detergent. You better get that off there.
Yeah. Why is my screen sharing paused? Why did that happen?
We're seeing all your text messages.
There we go. Why did that happen? Hold on. Let me try that one more time. Desktop. Share. How about now?
That's better.
Okay. Sorry about that. Brand new computer, but I am so much happier because I was fumbling with a Windows PC. Now I am back in my native environment of a Mac, which I just enjoy a heck of a lot better. But still a little bit of obviously some challenges when you get a new computer. So Michelle, you want to kick us off?
Sure. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another QB Power Hour. Today's topic is QBO Advanced Feature Deep Dive with Reporting Enhancements with Hector Garcia. Yay! A founding partner. Hector and I were just talking, and he reminded me that we first did our first Power Hour together in October of 2014. So it's wonderful to have Hector back on, joining Dan and I. And I can't wait to hear what Hector's got to say about the reporting enhancements, because he is a guru in this area. So
yeah. So like we need to introduce you, Michelle, but go ahead and give us your resume.
So my name is Michelle Long. Very glad to see you all here today and have you joining us. A puppy update. He is now known as Devil Dog. All of that biting and chewing is definitely coming out. So I've been ordering lots of little doggy toys off of Amazon. Dan, how about you?
Isn't Devil Dog a Drake?
I don't know, but I'll have to Google that. I would love to try it.
It's not Hostess. It's not Hostess, though. That's the thing.
I will have to Google that.
Well, my name is Dan DeLong. I'm your co-host today. Worked at Intuit for about 18 years. Also co-hosting the Workshop Wednesdays at schoolofbookkeeping.com and the tech editor of QBO for Dummies. Hector, tell us about yourself.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Hector. I'm a CPA based out of Miami, Florida. I've dabbled in QuickBooks for the past couple of months, and now I'm ready to present something for you guys. I think I'm best known for my YouTube channel. That will be likely what my big claim to fame is. So if you've never been to my YouTube channel, just search for my name, and you will see tons of videos. They are, for the most part, focused around QuickBooks. However, sometimes I do like something related to accounting or tax or something like that. But I've been pretty QuickBooks centric for about 7 years in the educational content that I create. So check that out. And I'll also give you some links to my other webinars.
We're so appreciative that you took the time to join us here today. And I think about what QuickBooks, what's the big benefit of QuickBooks, or any accounting package for that matter. It's ultimately it's the reports that you get out of it, and what can you do with those reports. So I'm really pleased and super appreciative that you found the time to join us today, as this kind of a reunion of sorts, not as cool as the Friends reunion, but I still, still pretty awesome. So a little bit of the details about the QB Power Hour webinar series. It's every other Tuesday at noon Eastern time. Of course, today we have the reporting enhancements with Hector. Next time we have real estate flips with Geeta Faust joining us for another extension of our niche nuance series. And then Money Thumb will be joining us in a couple weeks after that. We're making a statement. Now, we're not talking about actually creating a bank statement, but making a statement with your clients using their statement options within Money Thumb. And of course, you have the links to the PDFs of all the slides from before, recordings, as well as the podcast. So we'll start off with a poll. And I tried to click on it and it's not working. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing. New computer issues. Stop. Hector, can you run the poll? When I try to,
I can probably if you want me to.
Okay, yeah. Because when I try to slide over, okay, now
I just launched it. Yep.
Okay, what percentage of your clients use QBO Advanced? Yeah.
And Hector,
Okay.
while we're doing this poll question, somebody already asked, is the custom reporting available in QBO Canada or the advanced reporting?
So as far as I understand, QBO Canada has not released their advanced SKU yet, unless they've done it in the last couple of weeks. Because I did hear complaints about people saying, when are we going to get QuickBooks Online Advanced? So that for sure I could tell you then the answer would be no. Now, kind of the other side of the coin would be, let's assume that they do launch QuickBooks Online Advanced in Canada, let's say tomorrow. I don't know that if they will release advanced reporting immediately. So the biggest bottleneck we have now is that there isn't an advanced version in Canada. And from what I've spoken to at the Intuit team, there's no intention of making this tool available in plus or in lesser versions, at least from what I hear. So Canadians are going to have to wait to get advanced.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. All right. I can't see the poll results.
Okay.
So somebody wants to
So 1 to 25% use QBO Advanced. 57% was up to 25. What percentage of clients? So, and we had 29% were NA. So a lot of people that are new to QBO Advanced.
Sure.
So let's talk a little bit about where this custom report builder kind of fits in the grand scheme of reporting, right? So a lot of times when we see a new tool, we think, oh, this is going to be the be all and end all when it comes to reports. And really, the custom report builder is one tool in the reporting functionality, right? So, in this screenshot here, custom report builder is a wrench, right? So it's a tool, right? And a wrench has a certain set of functions. You wouldn't necessarily want to use a wrench to try to saw off a piece of wood, right? So I mean, every tool has its own function, and so hopefully that's what we're take custom report builder with that kind of lens, because of course you have regular QB reports, you have management reports, you have the performance center, and then of course in advance you also have the Fathom options. All of those are different reporting tools that you have. So just keep that in mind as we kind of go through this custom report builder. As it's its first iteration, it is not everything that we might hope everything to be. It's like, oh, this is going to answer all our prayers, of of everything that has to deal with reporting, right? So we'll show that at the end, how you can make this product better or make this feature better. But for the time being, just kind of look at it with that kind of report, through that lens, right? So this is kind of like setting the stage, being able to, when we think about custom report builder, when I first saw it, I thought, oh, this is fantastic, because we always have this desktop online, feud. And it always goes back to this type of situation. Like, but QuickBooks Desktop has the custom reports summary and transaction reports, and online never had that. When you're thinking of these types of reports. So the custom report builder is the first venture, right? Hector, would you agree that this is kind of like the first step into putting it on par with the custom reports out of desktop?
Actually, it's already, so this is still a beta. It's still absolutely a beta, but the customization tools in Custom Report Builder, it's already at a much higher step than QuickBooks Desktop. The problem is we still have some issues with the specific data fields being available and being pivoted correctly and calculated correctly. We'll discuss that during the live demo, but this is already more powerful than QuickBooks Desktop for a particular type of report.
Yeah, I think some of the things that you can do, and you created a video on your YouTube channel back when it first launched, and some of the things that you mentioned in there, like, oh, you can't even do that in desktop, where you can add the percentage or the average or the things of that nature. But we'll kind of walk through that. So let's talk about a little bit of our agenda. So Hector, do you want me to stop sharing?
I'll take over.
Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing. That way I can see the questions as they're coming in too.
Yes. So I'm taking over the presentation now.
Yep.
One thing I do want to make sure that you ask the Intuit people that are in the call, which I thank you guys for and gals for joining us and doing quality control and also answering the questions, is accountants are asking, when are we going to get Advanced fully upgraded into our own file, and also Custom Report Builder inside our own file as QuickBooks Online accountants. And there's a question behind the question that doesn't seem to be asked or answered, which is, will accountants have access to the tool to produce reports for non-advanced customers? So again, I'm an accountant, I have QuickBooks Online accountant, I have an Essentials customer. Will I have access to the tool as an accountant to produce these reports, even though my client is not in an accountant's queue? We need the answer to that. We need definitely yes, I definitely no, because that's the question behind the question and the ones that we really care about, because most of us accountants don't need to do fancy reports for our own file. We do need the tool so we can practice, learn how to use it, and know how to teach our clients or support our clients with it. But what we really want and clamor is for us to have something the client doesn't have that will give us an edge, and it will make the clients feel that having an accountant does give you an extra, or Pro Advisor gives you an extra cool thing. And being able to produce reports with this tool would be a really, really awesome thing. So if we can get that answer from David or whoever else is here from the Intuit team, and a real answer, not a, it's in the roadmap answer, a real answer, that would be nice.
So Hector, David just said that as of today, Custom Report Builder is only scheduled to be released in QBO Advanced. So that is something I think, David, if you can take back to the team and give feedback from Hector and a lot of us accounting professionals, it would be great if we had that as a tool to do the reports for our clients, as Hector mentioned. So that would be feedback from the accounting positions and or accounting professionals. And David said, duly noted. So good point.
Perfect. All right. So you can see my screen, right?
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to spend a few minutes, just because we did a pretty long introduction, a few minutes just kind of explaining to you what's going on in my world in terms of webinars. Then I'm going to walk you through the updates to Custom Report Builder. This will be particularly valuable for people that already started playing with it back in March or April or June, and they started doing some beta testing. There was a whole slew of updates that was added a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to point them out. Then I'm going to do a demo of the Custom Report Builder on a sales transaction, and then we're going to do it on an expense transaction. And then I'm going to tell you everything that's wrong with the tool and missing with the tool at the moment. And I don't have enough slides or time to go over everything that's wrong with it, but I'm going to point out the ones that became an issue when I was building reports for a couple of clients. Then we'll leave it open for a couple of open for Q&A. And if we have time, maybe we can try to build some reports on the fly. Let's see if we get lucky for that. So if you want to know how to attend my webinars, the webinars that I teach live, just go to hectorgarcia.com/webinars. And I do have a couple of free webinars scheduled in CP Academy starting tomorrow. It's a 3-part series for QuickBooks Online Banking. We're gonna press every single button in QuickBooks Online Banking. We're gonna break every single thing in QuickBooks Online Banking, and I'm gonna show you how to fix everything that's broken or everything that could be broken with QuickBooks Online Banking. So we're gonna do a full deep dive, 3 parts of 1 hour and a half each. That's 4.5 hours of QuickBooks Online Banking. Believe it or not, even then, it's not enough time to cover everything. So do attend those. Those are via CPA Academy. Divi sponsoring them. Really appreciate it that Divi paid me top dollar, right? This is not like I didn't charge $150 an hour for this. I charged top dollar for Divi to have their name behind this webinar. I think this is the most powerful webinar I've ever created to date, and it starts tomorrow. Check it out via CPA Academy. Then I have a couple of paid webinars coming up. One a couple of weeks from now on QBO plus Builder Trend. One a month from now, month and a half from now, QBO plus NoFi. I'm bringing a Builder Trend expert, a NoFi expert to help me build this together. Those are paid. All the links and the procedure to buy them and be part of it, it's in the website. And I have a free webinar coming up, my own advanced webinar series. I'm going to do an update to QBO in October, and I'm going to do a deep dive on when does it make sense to go to QuickBooks Online Advanced. One of my goals is to make QuickBooks Online Advanced the replacement of QuickBooks Enterprise. And for that, Intuit is going to have to pay a lot of attention to our feedback. And I'm going to discuss feedback. And this custom reporting tool is one of the stepping stones towards getting there. Intuit has a very long way to get their QBO product to match desktop. But I think they have at least they have the money behind it, right? They're investing a lot behind it. So in October, I'll give you an update to the world of QBO Advanced, and is it ready? And any other things that were added to QBO. Then in November, I partner with Alicia from Royal Wise, and I'm doing a sort of a part 2 to this webinar. It's also we paid. We're going to do a 3-hour mastering QuickBooks Online reports, basic reports, custom basic reports, and also custom report builder. And by November, I have a feeling that custom report builder will have some of the things I've asked for, like a custom summary report and a whole bunch of other things that I'm working with the PMs to improve. So if you want to attend those free webinars or the paid ones, hectorgarcia.com/webinars. That's going to be my plug there for my webinars. One thing I'm very excited to launch is a subscription service. Every single QuickBooks Online webinar I will create, the ones that are paid, are going to be compiled into one subscription service that I'm going to sell to the world at $50 a month. Eventually, this will be the way I retire from accounting and tax preparation, and I'll dedicate my life to build the Netflix of accounting. So if you're interested on having access to all of my premium paid webinars that I have created in the past 3 years and will create in the future, there's a $50 subscription you can access, cancel anytime. And then there's a coupon for the first 100 people that subscribe to get lifetime 50% discount. All the information is on the slides. If you're interested, I'm done with my pitch. And I appreciate QB Power Hour for giving me an opportunity to pitch my livelihood. I'm going to run the second polling question. And after this, I promise you 100% demo.
Okay, so Hector, while we're doing the polling question here, Dave wanted to let you know that your webinar is not listed for tomorrow at CPA Academy. So I don't know what
It is. I just don't know if maybe he's searching it in a weird way. Maybe Intuit is not involved. Tell David that they were not aware
Academy.
of this. This is a different Dave, not David.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now the Intuit David. Yeah. Sorry.
People are saying that they saw it.
Kim said she just signed up for it, so it must be out there. So search a little better.
It's there. It's there.
And he even said he found it.
Yeah.
So
it's there.
Problem solved, Hector. You are a problem solver. Look at that.
Look at that.
It's there. Divi paid me a lot of money to do it. I'm proud of it. It's there. One thing I think we don't think this enough. A lot of the sponsors of my webinars, of these webinars, are the ones that believe in education. It's important to give them kudos because education is one of those things that is very difficult to find as an app developer, to find immediate sort of gratification. This is a very long-term play. And these companies like Money Thumb, that's sponsoring us, Divi, I think, has sponsored you guys in the past. All these companies that do put money behind education to help our community and in exchange giveaway, they deserve at least checking them out. So do check out the webinar. I do appreciate everyone that supports us educators that prefer to make a living helping others rather than having a practice. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. It looks like 73% of you use reports to prepare financial statements and 41% of you to do cleanup work. And I assume that means take a look at it. Does it make sense? Go back and do some more cleaning. And then 39% of you are doing custom reports. Beautiful. All right. So let me jump right in, and I'm going to go ahead and show my screen. And let's talk about all the things that were added in July to Custom Report Builder. So the first thing they added, again, seems like a basic thing. It's the accrual cash toggle, right? So before they added this, all the reports were in accrual. People asked for the accrual cash toggle. It's there. In my opinion, they should have put that sort of at the top, not in a drawer. But that was part of my feedback, but it's awesome they did that. The second thing that they added in July is the ability to export to Excel and CSV separate. Now, I will explain what's wrong with the Excel export or what's the limitation behind the Excel export. I've been working with their team on finding the logic around what does an Excel export mean. Believe it or not, it doesn't mean just export whatever's on the screen. It's a bit more complex than that. But they did add the ability to do Excel and CSV, both. The Excel export, when it exports out, it exports in flat format. It doesn't export in collapsed format. So if you have any of the rows collapsed, right, or summarized, that is not going to show up on the export yet. Okay, that's something that the team is working on. I've talked to the bosses over there and explained what that is. They've also added the ability to resort the columns. So before the July update, the columns were added at the same order that you added the fields. So now they added the ability to resort the order of the column and also click on the column itself to resort in alphabetical order. The other thing they added, which I love, and I'm telling you, like, believe it or not, this was a huge move in my perspective, is they added a field called ledger amount, which shows you the value in a debit and credit format. So if it's a negative number, it's a credit. If it's a positive number, it's a debit. There's no field for pointing out whether something is debit or credit, but it is positive or negative. And if you're an accountant, you know that that positive means debit, negative means credit. They also added a field for split lines. So if you're looking at data, you want to see the source transaction, you want to see the split transaction, you want to see which accounts are being used in each one. They added that too. These little things make a big deal, especially someone like me that's been building reports in QuickBooks Desktop for so long. They also added sales receipts and purchase orders. So that was very much necessary. Okay, so now you know everything that was added that's new. Hopefully next month, there'll be a whole list of new things that get added as well.
Based on all of your feedback.
Yeah, this is based on the feedback I've gotten from people directly, the own feedback I've given, whatever Intuit has found as a, feedback. All right, so how do you get to advanced reports, to custom report builders? As we mentioned earlier, you need to be in QuickBooks Online Advanced. So how do you know which version of QuickBooks Online you're in? You click on the gear menu, you click on account and settings, and then on the billing tab, it will say what version you're in. You might be on Simple Start, Essentials, Plus, or Advanced. It needs to say Advanced for this to work. If it doesn't say Advanced, that is not going to be there. Then we're going to click on the Reports menu on the left-hand side. We're going to click on Reports one more time, and you're going to see two things that are not available in the lesser versions of QuickBooks Online. You're going to see Smart Reporting, which is the Fathom app, which is a partnership that QuickBooks Intuit has with Fathom. They've had it for several years. That gives you the ability to see pretty, beautiful KPI type of reports, but Fathom doesn't give you access to any details, no transaction details. So the answer to not having a detail-driven reporting system is the custom report builder. when you see this area on Custom Report Builder, you're going to see 3 buttons. You're going to see create a new report from scratch. That means that it won't give you any filters or fields right off the bat. You have to build it from zero. I'll show you how to do that. And then you have a template. This is basically a template to do an invoice report and then an expense report. As they add more capabilities and more templates, you will see more buttons there. But regardless of what buttons they add in there, you can always build it from scratch, clicking on Create New Report. Let's start with an invoice report, with a sales report. I'm going to click on Invoice Report, and then that's going to open up the template or the predetermined template that contains a list of invoices. So right off the bat, the first thing you're going to see, top left, is the ability to rename the report, right? So I can do, call it this year's sales by item. Okay, something like that. And we're going to start building a report for this year's sales by item. I'm going to click on the drop-down menu where the dates are, and you're going to notice that there's no option for custom date range. That drives me freaking bonkers. Okay, that Intuit didn't put that first. Okay, but they told me, Hector, that's the top priority, is to add custom dates. So you're going to see that pretty soon. Hopefully, if you're watching the recording of this is completely obsolete, and there is a custom report date range field in it. For now, I'm going to select this fiscal year, so we get all
the have something else to be bonkers about.
Right. Oh yeah. We'll bump up the bunker list to something else. All right.
Exactly.
So now we got this fiscal year. What I'm seeing here is invoices. Now the big question is, am I seeing the details of invoices? Am I seeing the summary of the invoice? And this is a really important piece, because when you're building reports in QuickBooks, you have to be able to know whether or not you're inquiring about what's called a source line of the transaction, or the details, or the split line of the transactions. I am currently looking at the source. And the way I know this is because of the fields that I elected to show. So right now on the left-hand side, you see the customize report drawer. You just click on the big customize button. The drawer opens up. That shows you the fields that it's going to display. One of the most obvious ways to kind of show the difference between the source and the split is, for example, on invoice, you're going to see 2 categories. You're going to see invoice by itself. You're going to see invoice line items. So information that resides on the source of the transaction, the one that encompasses the entire transaction, that's going to be under the invoice group, not on the invoice line items. So for example, things like the invoice date and the invoice number and the due date and the invoice amount, not the line item amount, that's going to be in the group of invoices only. I'm going to go ahead and turn off due date. I'm going to turn off amount, and I'm going to click on show all columns, because there's 5 fields enabled here. That number 5 means how many fields in this group are being enabled. I'm going to click on show all columns so we can open that up and see what else is being shown. Customer name. I'm going to go ahead and close open balance for now. Okay, I don't want open balance, and I'm going to get rid of shipping date. So right now, I'm only showing 3 columns. I'm showing invoice date, invoice number, and customer name. Notice that there's no amount. So naturally, that's all I see. I see those 3 columns in there. Now I'm going to collapse the left navigation bar so we get a little bit more of real estate, and we're going to continue to build more things on this report. Let's say that what I want to see now is I want to see products or line items. So I'm going to click on the customize button. I'm going to go ahead and collapse the invoice group and open up the invoice line item group, and then go into the details of the specific invoices. I'm going to click here where it says show all columns, and then I'm going to show product and service. So I'm going to go ahead and click on product and service. That's going to enable the product and service. That's now showing as the 4th column in the order. As you can see, that's a product or service. I can also expand this and look for ledger amount, my favorite line. As a matter of fact, I don't care about amount line anymore. I only care about ledger, because in my world, I need to know whether it's a debit or a credit. And this matters a lot, especially when we're dealing with things like inventory. Okay. And we'll discuss that in a second. The other thing I'm going to add account line and split account. And these 2 things were added. They're new and they're worth it, because you need to know and understand whether or not we're looking at the source or the target, the source or the detail, the source or the split. There's different names for this. I'm going to go ahead and collapse that. And now we're going to see that we have account line and split account. So at any point in time that you're looking at invoices, for example, and the account that's being shown is accounts receivable, that is going to be your source, because that's the other side of the invoice equation. We have all the sales coming from other items, and then the other side, the balancing transaction, will be accounts receivable. So if I don't want to see the source, I just want to see the detail, all I need to do is I need to filter out that account type. So we're going to click on customize, and we're going to go down. We're going to collapse invoice line items, and we're going to go down to chart of accounts, and we're going to enable account type. By doing that, now I'm going to be able to see my account line, my split account, and then my account type. So all I have to do at this point is to show everything but accounts receivable. So I'm going to go ahead and click on filter. I'm going to click on the drop-down menu and say, I want to filter my account type, and I want to see everything but accounts receivable. Okay, that's one approach. The other approach could be. Go ahead.
This is one of the things that that the report filters in the custom report builder allow you to do, that does not equal that just the operation. Because with your regular reports, you only have yes or no, right? And if you want the to get a little bit more granular, you end up having to check off all these boxes in order to do the multiple select, right?
I agree. So I think that having the ability to choose a specific set of accounts. So for example, if I click equal and then I select, look, only show me income and COGS, because I want to see maybe profit from a inventory line or something like that. That's an option. You can do that. But if your invoices contain something that's hitting other income, other expense, or regular expense category, or maybe even hitting a prepaid liability or something like that, that is going to come into play when you start thinking about how to build this report. So you have those two options. You can just go manually select income and cost of goods sold, or come in there and click on does not equal and say everything but accounts receivable. But just keep in mind that if you do everything but accounts receivable, if there are things in your invoices hitting other accounts that's not income or COGS, it could kind of throw you off. That is possible. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. So now I'm only seeing the sales side and the cost of goods sold side. Remember, because it's ledger amount, negative means credit, which means sale, and then a positive is debit, which means cost. All of these products you see here, masonry, floor flaming, these are all service items. Now, let's go ahead and do customize here, and let's also group it by item type or product type. So I'm going to click on product and service, and then I'm going to go to product and service type, and I'm going to click on that one. So I'm going to enable that as a field. But what I'm also going to do is now I'm going to start grouping it by that. So I have the account line, which is what I care about, the ledger amount, but now I want to group them by type of product. So I'm going to click on group here, and then I'm going to group it by, in this case, product service type, and then click on add. And what that is going to do, actually not add, add would be for subgroup. We'll get there in a second. Let's just do it like this. And then we close out of that grouping. And then what you're going to see now is now the data is organized and grouped by type of product. So we have all of our service items that were sold via invoices. And then we have all the inventory items that were sold via invoices. I'm going to go ahead and open up the inventory. And now we get to see that all the sales at the line item level for all my inventory. Now, what I can also do is I can do a subgroup. So I got product and service type, then I can click on add and create a subgroup. And then with a subgroup, maybe I'll pick the actual product name. So now by doing that, when I go and open up my inventory, now it's split off by the name of the product. So I have all my inventory sales, and I have them grouped by the 2x4s and the 2x6s. Okay. Now
that's something that desktop doesn't do, right? Like
that's something that absolutely desktop doesn't do. Correct.
You can't subgroup. Then you got to send it to Excel in order to have the subtotal or the subgroups that you have in there. So that's
absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
one for QuickBooks Online.
Yeah, one. I'll give you one. QuickBooks Online. I'll give you one. All right. So, all right. So the next thing I want to do is I want to do like subtotals. I want to do totals. So I'm going to click on Edit Group Calculations. I'm going to select the column and I want to say, look, I want you to total the ledger amount. So what's really cool is you get totals, you get averages, you got percentages. Okay. So for now, let's just do total so we kind of understand what's going on here. And I'm going to also change the order of these. I'm going to click on layout and I'm going to bring the ledger amount just kind of a little bit closer, just because I want it more towards the left-hand side and have more visibility towards it. Now, these are negative numbers. So bookkeeping, accounting 101, that is your profit. Okay. And I'll explain what I mean by that. Okay. That is your profit. Okay. Why? Because when I open up any of the transactions, if we look at the invoice number, notice that there's basically three lines of data. We're going to have our sales amount, which is 3,330. Then we have our cost of goods sold, which is 2,610. And then we have our inventory asset adjustment, which is 2,610. Right now, unfortunately, I'm showing the inventory asset transaction, which I don't need. So I need to get rid of that inventory asset transaction ASAP. And the way we do that is we go back to our filters and fix our filters. So I'm going to click on filter here. And instead of doing not equals to accounts receivable, and that was one of the examples I was saying, these are some of the things that you run into where you have to go back and tweak the filters. I prefer to just go straight to equals and only show me my income and my cost of goods sold lines. And the reason I want that is because I want to see profit. So now when I notice that I have invoice 101053, I'm going to see my sales amount, which is 3,330, and then my COGS account, which is 2,610. Not sure if this is being accurate. Well, let's go ahead and do traditional methods of verifying. So let me go ahead and open up a different tab here. I'm going to click on my trusty magnifying glass and search for that invoice number. I'm going to pull up the actual invoice number. Okay. I'm going to pull up the actual invoice number and I'm going to verify the data that I'm looking at. So there's my sale amount, 3,330. Okay. I don't see my COGS. It's not visible in the invoice. But if I click on more and then click on transaction journal, that's when we get to see the guts of the transaction. Most of you are probably used to this, but for those that know about transaction journal for the first time, you're welcome. I just changed your entire worldview, right? So I'm going to click on customize here. I'm going to click on filter, and I'm kind of going to do the same thing here. I'm going to do like all income and COGS, and I can do that. You can do that. You don't have to, but if you want to go in there, actually, I guess you don't have the ability in the journal. But if you had the ability, you would filter and do income and COGS. For some reason, it's not available here. Then you can just get rid of the things that you don't need to see. That way, you only see sales and COGS. But I'm telling you, imagine there's only two lines here: the 3,330 on the income side as a credit, and then the 2,610 as the cost of goods sold. So it's very, very clear that by looking at the invoice, I can do the journal. I can see what it looks like. And I'm sort of verifying that that's the same thing that I'm looking at a custom report builder. Now, why did I have to open a second tab and find the invoice and open it up? Because for some crazy reason, the developers of the custom report builder didn't think that the most important thing about a report is for you to be able to click on it so you can inspect the transaction. That is not available yet. That is a thing that should be, but it's not there. And trust me, they know. I yelled at probably 6 people about this already. So this is a very, very important thing. We need to be able to click and drill down so we can verify what the heck we're looking at, especially in the sort of beta stages as we're getting, falling in love with the tool. We need to be able to, just for the peace of mind, click on it to see, am I looking at the right thing? So for the time being, you have to open a second tab and look at the transaction separately for you to verify what it is. But that gives you, a long story short, it has a quick profitability report on my 2 inventory items that I sell. And it is profitability because I'm showing both accounts. If I don't want to see profitability, if I only want to see sales, well, there's 2 ways to do this. one of the things we can do is we can go to filter and then change this to only income. And then just by removing COGS from here, now we get sales. So what we're seeing here is sales. Before we were looking at profit. So simply by just adding the COGS category in there, we transform from looking at sales to only looking at COGS. That's an option. The other option that I could suggest is we can go to group, and then we can add one subgroup and then do account type. It's going to be pretty interesting here. So now we expand inventory, we expand the product, and now we have the sales and the COGS as two separate lines. Okay, so you can expect COGS and sales as two separate lines. Now, one other thing that drives me bonkers, and it will be the next thing that drives me bonkers after they fix the custom report builder, is I cannot group by invoice number. For some crazy reason, I don't know why or how the programmers thought, yeah, we don't need that. We don't need to group by invoice number. And the problem with that is, if I want to know my profit per invoice, I currently cannot do that with this custom report builder. And that drives me crazy. Okay. So one of the things that we do need is we need to be able to group by invoice number. That's not available. I don't know what the technical reasons are behind it. To me, it's something that was like I missed from the checklist and no one looked into it until someone like me points it out. They really weren't going to fix it proactively. So again, all these criticisms that I'm giving here, I'm not trying to stand off to Intuit or whatever. What I'm trying to drive you to do is to click on give feedback and type here, we need to group. We'll do it right now. We need to be able to group.
Because this feedback is actually looked at. You know, a lot of people think, well, I'm going to send a chat or an email to someone, and it's really just kind of going over the wall. You know, Intuit, you know, being on the other side of the wall and actually working there, that was where things were driven, right? Like share feedback. People actually do read that. And I think one time, I think last year, Michelle, we had actually sent feedback with someone from Intuit on the webinar, and they actually brought it up and saw it, and you know, they could actually look at it. So
yeah,
please do that. I mean, it's not an instant fix, right? I mean, it's you sending in feedback does not mean it's going to be fixed tomorrow.
Right.
But
and one thing is worth adding. One thing is worth adding. You could take a screenshot. I mean, that's really cool. I mean, you don't have to like go out there and do a screenshot. You can take a screenshot and say, hey, you know, I need to be able to group by invoice number, give your feedback, click next. That's going to be really, really important. Okay. So you'll give that feedback. Someone does read it, right? Because I literally I put my cell phone there once and say, if you don't understand this, call me. Somebody literally called. Okay. So they do read it. I'm not saying they're going to call you, but I say they do read it. Do it. It's extremely, extremely important that happens. Okay. All right. So go ahead.
Can I ask you a question, Hector?
Yes.
So this is a great report, and I love it. I love how powerful it is. But I have a question for you. Is it possible to do, when you're looking for, let's say, negative inventory, is there a report that you can get to do quantity on hand so that you could see throughout the year if you had any negative inventory?
So I haven't done it, but you know what? Let's adventure into doing that.
I don't know. Why don't you wait until the end? I don't want to get you sidetracked. Finish
It's a good experiment. Look, one thing I tell you is custom report building, and some of my friends that are here in this webinar that are intimately involved with custom report building. It's a discovery process. It's let me add this, see what happens. Let me add this, see what happens. And there's always tweaking, and they're always playing, right? I implore you that if you do get an idea like, could I run a report that solves for this particular customer issue, like taking a look at the history of inventory and quantities, do explore with it, because you first of all, you're going to find that there's a flaw with the system and give feedback and say, hey, I tried to do this, and the logic I applied makes total sense, but for XYZ reason, it doesn't really make sense that I can't go any further. But also, it's good for you to explore with it. So I think I did a pretty good job showing kind of how the invoice process works. We'll go back and do maybe more examples to that. As a matter of fact, let me save this, Okay, so I'm going to save it as a custom report. That way I can go back to it. So that's a really cool thing. You can save it and just kind of go back to it. So let's create a new one. I'm going to go back to custom report builder. I'm going to click on create new report. And Michelle's question is, could we build sort of a report of inventory history? So one of the things that the answer might be no. It's because I don't have all dates as an option here. So the problem by not having all dates is that I cannot bring any carryover historical inventory balances. So because of that, we're kind of screwed, but I can show you how that would kind of work. I'm going to do this here, which gives me sort of the most amount of information. And then the first thing I would do is I would definitely go to chart of accounts here, and I would enable account, not account type, but account name. And then I would filter and only show, because inventory is always going to be on the inventory asset account. So I'm going to start with inventory asset as my main filter. That way, the only thing I'm looking at is inventory asset type of transactions. The next thing I would probably need to do, and it's to show the transactions. Let's do transaction line, and let's bring product and service in the transaction lines. That way I can see all of the products and services that have been affected by inventory asset, which is essentially how inventory gets tracked. Next thing I would do is bring quantity, most likely. And then here's where we see all the positives and negatives in here. I would probably group these by product, definitely group these by product. That way I can now see sort of the history of the movement of the product. I would also possibly bring transaction type into the mix. I think transaction type would be useful. So let's open up here transaction and let's do transaction type. And let's bring transaction type, change the order of it. And let's bring transaction type maybe next to a product and service. And then let's expand these. And now we can see, okay, we got a inventory starting value, we have an invoice, we have a bill, and then we have the positives and negatives. Now, so we're missing a couple of things. One of the things that we're missing is, as I mentioned earlier, is the ability to do all dates so we can see the entire history or to get some sort of carryover balance. Because of that, we can't achieve what Michelle's asking for. But I'm showing you the baseline on how you start getting there, and then you can go back and push and say, hey, I'm missing this one thing to be able to produce the report that I want. So the next thing here would be to do a subtotal. So we're going to subtotal by quantity. Okay, subtotal by quantity. That way we can kind of get a balance. So according to this, I have 714 units available. Again, that's based on the history of inventory from the beginning of the year, not to all dates. That might be accurate because I don't think I did inventory in this particular file prior to that, but we can go back and verify that in a second. So these are supposed to be my quantities. Let's just go to the different tab here, and let's just for the heck of it, see if what my regular reports tell me about my inventory valuation summary. Okay, so this is accurate. See, 714, 765. So that's accurate. So what I'm essentially seeing here is that. Now, what I would probably need to see is some sort of running balance of these inventory by week or by date, so I could possibly identify at what point I went negative. Unfortunately, I can't bring transaction date into here, so I can bring transaction and then bring in transaction. So yes, I can bring transaction date into the fold, and I'm going to change the order and maybe move that maybe to the front here. So when we're looking at the history here, we're looking at transaction date. Unfortunately, what I cannot do is I currently cannot group by week or month, or like I can do by date. Okay, but the problem with that by date is by specific date. So I can check what the stock was that day, right? But it's not a running balance. It's just total movement. So I would need to have two things. I would need to have the ability to have a field for running balance, okay, or be able to go back to the beginning of time and do that. And on top of that, be able to group these not by day, but by week, by month, or something like that. So because of that, Michelle, that report that you're specifically asking for cannot be achieved. The tools are not there yet.
All right, that was a good exercise though, just going through that. And yeah, like Karen said, you might be able to send it to Excel and manipulate. If you have like beginning balances and send it to Excel, then you might be able to do some manipulation there. But David from Intuit, it would be helpful to be able to see if there was negative inventory at any time during the year, because that can cause trouble. And we do have that tool in client data review and desktop to search for negative inventory throughout the
It would be like I think when is important. When do we get the negative inventory? That way we can go back and focus our research around that time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
I derail you. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Let's take advantage and just do a quick polling question, okay? And this polling question is a bit more self-serving for me. Like I mentioned earlier, I am focused on building educational content for accountants, for QuickBooks users, and I want to think, what is the next thing I should be building? Should I build an advisory workshop to show people how to price, provide advice, how to talk to clients, how to look at KPIs? Should I build an e-commerce desktop workshop? Should I build an e-commerce online workshop? Should I build a QuickBooks desktop for contractors? And the reason why I say that is because the infrastructure bill that's about to pass, $1.x trillion, is going to explode the industrial industry. The construction industry, if any of you serve the construction industry, strap to your pants, because you're going to have more work than ever. And if any of you are currently not doing it and thinking about doing it, I suggest you start looking at that, because there's going to be a huge shortage of accountants and QuickBooks specialists that understand job costing, government reporting, certified payroll, because the government needs to spend $1 trillion and the government doesn't own any construction equipment. So that means that the private industry will do most of the work. Maybe the military will do some. There's going to be a crap load of work for construction industry. And I know this, I could tell you, just like at the beginning of the pandemic, I predicted that e-commerce was going to explode. And I should have focused on e-commerce beforehand, but it didn't matter. We got an explosion of e-commerce clients. Now we're going to see a little bit of shift from e-commerce to construction, I think. So I just put the poll out there. What do you guys think? Where would you pay, not just pay money, but pay attention to spending hours on building your skills? Would it be advisory, e-commerce desktop, e-commerce online, or construction contractors?
Well, this is definitely a careful what you wish for webinar. When you have Hector unleashed on on a product, but you've definitely created even more fans for you. And I've seen that in the chat as it scrolled by. I was like, oh, I'm going to these webinars. I want all of this.
Right. Please,
more Hector.
Right. Well, one thing I will tell you though, if you are going to get into construction, I have one specialist in my team that does construction. If you're going to get into construction, like really, really get to construction, make sure when you price your services, ask them if they're going to be doing government work, because certified payroll, WIP reports, bonding, there's more work to be compliant to be able to serve the government for obvious reasons. And hopefully the government is also adding some controllership and backstops to make sure there's not that much corruption, because when there's $1 trillion out there, everything's up for grabs. So if you are going to be serving the construction industry, make sure you price enough that it gives you time to learn that skill. All right, perfect.
We're coming in on the top of the hour. Is there something you wanted to show on the expense side, or do you want to talk more about? You want to talk about more of the things? We'll
get there. Is there a chance to go a little bit over, or is it a hard stop at top of the hour?
Well, it's not a hard stop for me. I've got time on the other side. So I mean, if we want to go a little longer, I'm certainly fine with that.
Yeah, if you allow me to go a little longer, that way I don't have to rush it, I will be okay with that. Okay. All right. So we're gonna go back to custom report builder. We're gonna go to reports, and now we're gonna do an expense transaction. Okay. I'm gonna click on expense. And look, and while that loads, if any of you have any funky type of reports that you want to build, like what Michelle suggested, put it in the suggestions. I'll try to build it. Again, this discovery process of trying to build a report, it's really important to understand the tool, understand your thinking, and understand the limitations that it has so you can give the proper feedback. See, I never even thought about doing an inventory report. I never even thought about giving them feedback on having running balance, potentially running balances in there. That's from a technical perspective, that's going to be kind of complex, but they can pull it off. I mean, the Intuit has the payroll, they have the brains to do it. It's just a matter of where do they focus their attention. So if 90% of you believe that a running inventory report is what they need and they get that feedback, that's what they will be doing. Okay. All right. So we started with the expense report template. And again, let's go from scratch to understand what we're looking at. Let me go ahead and do this fiscal year. And I'm going to collapse the left navigation bar so we get a little bit more real estate. So let's click on the customize button and let's take a look at what are we looking at. So we're looking from the expense grouping. We're looking at 7 fields. We're looking at due date, transaction number. We're looking at transaction date, transaction type, and amount. So let's go ahead and get rid of due date. Let's leave transaction number. That's important. Let's leave transaction date, transaction type, and amount. I'm okay with that. Vendor name is important. Let's get rid of open balance for now. And let's bring in locations. Okay. And yeah, let's bring in locations, right? And so now we have all these fields that we're working on. We have those fields in there. Now I want to change the order. So I'm going to go back to layout and I'm going to group it first by transaction type. Then I'm going to group it by, actually, I'm going to do vendor first, then transaction type, then transaction number, then the date, then the amount, then the location. Let's try with that. And now let's start doing some grouping. So let me group this by vendor name first. Okay. And then we will do the second grouping, transaction type. That would be useful. Okay. So we'll close that. So now we're looking at all the expense type of transactions. That one next to it is how many lines are under each of these rows. So we look at one that has 2, for example, Crystal Bay windows. I'm going to go ahead and expand that. And then we can see that we have a bill and then we have check. If I expand bill, I see my bill here. I should probably move dollar amount closer to the left here so we can see it a little bit earlier. Let's do it after transaction type here, right? Okay, there we go. So now we have our bill, our $1,200 bill on 4/20. And then if I expand check, I see my 3 checks towards that vendor. You want to see the expense category? Sure. Let's go to customize here. And let's go into possibly split. We need split line. So let's go back into expense and let's look for, could either be account or split. Let's open both and see which is the one that we want. So we open account and we open split. And now let's open one of these. We got a bill. Okay. And our split contains accounts payable. We don't need that. We knew a bill was accounts payable. So all we need is just account. So by opening both account and split, to me, is the best way to know, okay, which is the one that I'm looking at. So let me click on customize and let me get rid of split and just show account. And then maybe even move account a little bit higher up. And let's put it here next to transaction type and collapse that. And then let's expand one of these vendors. We got 24 bills under Western Telephone. We can expand that. Now we can see all the bills and we can even see all the categories that these bills are hitting. Pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. Okay. Now let's go ahead and do one interesting thing that could be useful. I'm going to click on a group, and instead of grouping by transaction type, I'm going to group it by account. Okay. Now, what kind of information that would give me? Well, I can see whether any particular vendor is using more than one account as a category, and that could be an indication of potentially misclassification. Not always the case, but because sometimes a vendor could serve in multiple capacities. But if you want to see, in your entire database, is there a vendor in which we're using and not categorizing in a consistent fashion? You can see any of these that have 2s next to it, like First National Bank. Notice that they have 2 categories: bank service charges, loan interest. That makes sense. Maybe there's not that much more to look at here. But then we have the same, I think, we have right here, Big Value Warehouse Store. I'm going to open that and notice that the same vendor is being used for 3 different categories. And you can see how many transactions of each category, and you can expand and you can look at each one of them. You can look at the amounts, You can look at the transaction number, whatever other piece of information we bring in there. Okay. So it's an example of like one way you can use an expense transaction. Another thing we can do is we can bring locations and classes into the mix. That's where the reporting becomes really, really powerful. So I'm going to click on customize, go back into columns, go back to my expense group, and then I'm going to enable location, okay, and class as well. Then what I'll do is I'm also going to group these by location first, and then I'll do account second. Just an example, okay? So we have all these vendors here. When I expand one vendor, Miller Properties, notice that I have my Palm Beach location and my Miami location. If I expand that, I can see that in my Miami location, I use Miller Properties for rent. I expand that, you get to see all the transactions.
As you're expanding these, is there a global expand contract, or is it all
There isn't. That is part of my wish list that I give to Intuit.
Mm-hmm.
Expand all, collapse all. That would be kind of cool.
It's on the bonkers list.
So it's a you know what, the global expand and global expands doesn't drive me as much bonkers as not having a custom date range, as not having tags, as not having drop down custom fields, as not having the ability to group by invoice. I mean, I have other things in my priority of my bunker list.
It's a lower priority bunker list.
It's a low bunker, correct? Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's experiment with maybe shifting some of the hierarchy of these groups. Let me clear them all, and let me start with location. So we start with location. Okay, then maybe we can do class second. That's pretty awesome, right? So I can open my Palm Beach location, and then I have transactions by class, and then maybe in the class, let's go crazy with a third grouping, and that's a limitation. There's only three groupings, but I mean, I would have been happy with just one, but I mean with two, but 3 layers is awesome. I love that. I mean, would it be nice to have 4? Yeah, I mean, but 3 is pretty good. Okay, so we start with the location, then we open it by class. Then you can see it by category. So you can start seeing how you can do some really, really interesting type of reporting here. Now, what if the custom report builder doesn't give you what you need? Okay, well, then you export to Excel. So I'm going to click on export here and then click on export to Excel. Okay, and then I should have a report here in Excel. Let's open that up. And then you will notice, one thing you will notice is that in the custom report builder, we have a grouping and a hierarchy. Currently, when you export to Excel, the only thing that you will see is all the data, but in a flat view. Kudos to the Excel export for a couple of things. One, I like the last update. In my opinion, that should not go on the top. That should go on the bottom. That way I don't have to delete a row to make a pivot table, right? Or if you're gonna put it, maybe put it here to the side like this. Again, that way I'm not bothered with having to delete the top line, because you know that if I export to Excel, this thing is gonna go in a pivot table, right? For sure. So like, why make me extra work to delete that line in there? Okay. All right. So I'm gonna take and grab all these columns here and do a pivot table. And then I can, maybe do things that the pivot table can't, like maybe group by transaction number, something like that. And then I go by vendor name or let's move vendor name to the top. And then we go amount, okay, whatever it is. So I can start, doing things that maybe custom report builder can't do. I don't want to spend my time doing stuff in Excel. That's an entirely different rabbit hole. But no matter how good your accounting software is, your reporting software is, there's always going to be the need to do something in Excel, because people want to change your formatting, want to delete something. So having that Excel export capability is extremely important. Again, if it was my choice, make it flat, 100% flat off the bat, so I can go straight to pivot. But it would be nice if somehow they can figure out, and I'm sure that's more complex, how to pre-group these in Excel. So when you export it, it's already pre-grouped. It's complicated because there's licensing with Excel and Excel tools, and probably, possibly they'll never get to something like that. But one thing that you will notice, if you haven't already, and that this is high in my bunker list, I can't print this. It's freaking unbelievable to me that someone would develop a reporting tool and not think of the print capability like first. Okay, you cannot print this. Like I could try to print the screen. I can do Control P on the keyboard, and then I'm going to see like this bunch of nonsense in here. Okay, so I can't truly print this. I mean, I would have to like maybe get like super creative and scale these down to like 20% maybe of the screen, and like just do something like it's just
break out the magnifying glass.
Right. There's no, they have not thought about how to convert this into a PDF. And when I sat down with the product manager, I realized it is a big undertaking. Believe it or not, it is not that simple. So the only way to truly print this is to export to Excel and print from Excel. So the only unfortunate thing is, because you don't get the pre-grouping in Excel, you don't get to print it exactly as you see it. Okay, so this is, for now, this is a data exploration tool with no drill down capacity, with no printing capacity, but yes, Excel capacity, and yes, pivot in Excel type of thing. We have someone from Intuit here that's, I think, wants to say something. Should we allow them, Dan?
Yeah, let me allow to talk. He's raising his hand. I don't know if that was a click by on accident.
I think they deserve to defend themselves.
Yeah.
Okay, so David, you can talk now.
You need to unmute yourself, David. Well, David, are you there?
Hey guys, I did not mean to raise my hand, but I will say that as you guys have mentioned, there are a lot of things that we still need to build out with this product in the future. You know, there's some complexities in how these things are getting done. You know, one of the, I'm specifically on the accountant team, so I interface with our friends on the advanced team. And the most powerful thing I can get from you all is this feedback that you put in through that you provide in the chat. Those are the ways we get things done here. And my goal is, as we're building out new features in advance and in other products, that we have as many accountants involved in the development and in the beta, so that we can get that powerful feedback, because we know you know this product, frankly, better than us at this point.
And David, I appreciate you letting us, really take it under the knife, and make it vulnerable to that, and be open for that feedback. That's always one of the things that I've really appreciated about Intuit, is its willingness, to listen to feedback from its customers. It doesn't actually it doesn't happen overnight. There's millions of people putting in feedback at the same time. It's a daunting task to quantify that, but it is something that is listened to, which is
right.
Which is great.
And look, and beyond, eventually listen to the feedback and eventually fixing it, David, I think it's also important that you let the user know and understand that this is a work in progress. So you don't have a big beta label here. That's a mistake, right? If you don't put a beta label in it, I'm going to go out there and destroy the product where it's broken, because you're not communicating to me that this is a beta. Okay. 1, 2, if you are not putting a little link next to it that says, this is what we're working on, this is the feedback that we received, these are the things that we just added. Okay. Then what happens is you put a tool out there, and QuickBooks is an extremely strong brand. So if I could press a button in QuickBooks and something shows on the screen, I need to feel that I trust the data that's outputting. If this is a beta, it is a work in progress, and some things are broken and not functional, you got to communicate that. Otherwise, you're going to have people, I know, and I'm really just throwing red meat at my crowd, because my crowd knows that I like to criticize and give you guys tough love. And this is a very small crowd, by the way. This is like 200, 300 people plus a few YouTube views. But once you show this to 1 million people and they start building reports and it's not working, you get frustration. And those people don't give feedback. They just go to a different product. We give feedback, because we're passionate about it. So we need that big beta button there. We need a list of what you fixed already. We need a list of what's being fixed. We need that. We need those notes, and we need to feel that we're part of the process of making the product better. Otherwise, we're just going to ignore it, not use it, and just think of it as a broken thing and completely overlook something that we can basically improve together.
Yeah, I mean, I think of it in terms of, there's still people out there that think that QBO doesn't do job costing, right? I mean, it doesn't do it like desktop, but it's making strides to close that gap, and part of that is because it didn't do it for them when they tried it, and now they just discarded it and are never going to look at it again because it didn't perform for them when they needed it at that moment. So that, I think that's great feedback as well.
So in that nature, for the 150 something people are still here today in the live recording, let me do a summary of the things that it doesn't have. That way you do provide the feedback if any of these are important to you. So no drill down when you click on a transaction, no grouping by invoice number, no print or PDF workflow. Excel doesn't match the collapse and expand nature, and no custom summary report. That I'm just thinking about the QuickBooks Desktop, where you can build it as not a detailed transaction, but as a kind of rows and columns type of transaction. That's an entirely different system in play. I mean, you can use the same engine, I guess, but it's a different workflow altogether. So out of the first four, drill down, grouping by invoice number, print workflow, and Excel export with collapse, which one do you think? Put it in the comments. I just would love to know which of these feel to you that should be the top priority. Again, I'm not even sure if they'll read this, but I'm just wondering from the crowd here, based on my comments, is it drill down? Is it invoice number grouping? Is it PDF printing? Is it export Excel with a collapse capability?
I think drill down is very, very important. If we had to, we could always do a screenshot and copy and paste that screenshot into Word to be able to print it. That we do need to print. I agree that is very important. But for me, drill down is the number one, because we're so used to drilling down, whether we were using desktop or we were using online, we're used to drill down. Yeah. And not having that there seems like a big one for me anyway.
Yeah, drill down too. Me too. I absolutely agree. And it's fairly, oh, by the way, Intuit, if you're listening to this, when you drill down, it needs to be a new window. Don't have me click on drill down and destroy the screen I'm working on. Okay. That's an HTML thing. Okay. Drill down is a new window, not the same window, because otherwise it's going to suck. Right. You click on drill down and you forget to save the report. It goes to a different screen and you're screwed.
Hector, when you click on a link, click on your scroll bar and it will open it in a new tab.
I know, but look, do you remember to do that each time?
I know.
I consider myself a power user. I'm in the leadership of the Nerd Association of Power Users, and even I forget to do control click or right click and that sort of thing. Okay, the other thing
when a transaction comes up like that, I think the technical term is it's called a trouser. When it comes down and takes over the full screen, and literally you get caught with your pants down when you bring up a trouser and you're stuck like that.
Okay, so I forgot to add this, and I should have added this. Drop-down custom fields is still not functioning. Okay, they told me they were working on that. Should be working today, yesterday, last week. It's not there. Drop-down custom fields really important. To start adding, especially because that's the advantage of QBO Advanced, right? You got custom fields. So like it makes no sense to have to pay the extra for QBO Advanced if then I can't report on those custom fields. Now, to be fair, the regular reporting system works great with custom fields, but they haven't added here yet. The non-drop-down custom fields, the old school, just like, fill in data, like in a free form type, those are showing, but the drop-down ones are not showing. So I also mentioned custom date filtering. That's not there. Tags are not available. I don't get it. The tags should be available. If you add tags, you need a report for it. One thing I want to point out, and I made peace with this. That's why I'm not going to put it in my bunkers category. This is not a real-time reporting system. QuickBooks is pushing your data to, let's call it, a separate database for this. Okay. So it's an entirely different database that is being synced every couple of hours. So when you pull a report, you have to look at the bottom that says updated 3 hours ago, 4 hours ago. So you will not be able to change a transaction and then see what it looks like in the system. And that, again, for someone that's testing this, for someone like me that's testing and discovering and trying to understand, that's a big problem. But in the real world, this is not. Most people, when they pull reports, they pull last week, last month, last year. They're not pulling everything up to the last couple of hours. So in the real world, this is not a real problem that is 3 hours old or whatever. But for someone that's testing and trying, that was a really, really big issue for me. And there's no like push button where you can like force an update. I'm not sure if that ever will, but something to point out.
But that's also a good thing to point out, though, is that the last updated is not like last run when you last ran the report. It's last updated for the database sync for the report.
Good, yeah, good point. Accurate. Yeah, good point too. Like, so you technically, if you're gonna have a last updated there, you need to know the time that it was last updated, because that will be relevant. Other thing, and this might be minor, but to me it's important for construction companies. I want to see a field for the customer name and a field for the project as two separate fields. That way, when I pivot them, I can pivot them cleanly, right? So I can group it by customer and then group it and then sort it by project. Right now, there is a customer project field that shows you the entire path. So customer, sub-customer, or customer project. But I would like to see a separate customer and a separate project. I also want to see that in the expense category. So I want to know expenses by customer, overall customer, billing customer, and expenses by project as two different points of analysis that's currently not available. Okay. So I like to see those things separated. There's no debit and credit column. Again, ledger amount sort of solves the problem, but it would be cool to have debit and credit, because I can filter them and say, only show me debits, only show me credits. And having debits and credits, it's sort of a starting point to building a custom trial balance report, which could also bring forth a whole bunch of interesting things. The other thing that I think it should have, I think there should be a profit amount. I think that if you got inventory sales, and QuickBooks knows the profit at the invoice level or the profit at the line item level, it would be nice to have profit on inventory items, so I don't have to see the income side and the COGS side and do all those workarounds that I show you separately. I would like to see those. So Intuit has received that feedback from me. That's one guy giving feedback. If I can get a whole army of you, like pointing in the feedback, maybe the top 2 or the top 3 of these that you think you need, plus whatever else you need, put that in the feedback. Somebody's reading it. Trust me, somebody's reading it. I 100% tell you somebody's reading it. Last thing, I did see a couple of comments of people asking about how to take my advanced content. Again, I make a living out of education now. I'm selling my practice. I'm getting out of doing accounting with clients. And this is my goal, is to create advanced content, make it available for people for a monthly subscription. There's the coupon code, and it's hectorgarcia.com/subscribe if you're interested. And other than that, I think we can run the last polling question and maybe do additional Q&A. I can stay if somebody wants me to run if somebody has a fancy idea for a report, put it in the chat. I'm always curious to even know, if it can do it. So if you got something.
Kind of thinking in the last year, has your opinion or outlook about QBO Advanced improved, decreased, kind of stayed the same? So that's the last poll question that we'll have here. But somebody had asked about, can you add multiple year budgets to a report? I think not in here, right? I mean, not in
there's
the custom report.
There's no budgets in custom report builder. No, once it goes to a custom summary report, then they can start thinking about budgets. But this is a transaction level thing. So how are you even going to get transaction level data in a budget? It's just like budget is not the right place for this tool. Custom summary, maybe.
And that's also a good point too, is that, the custom report builder is its own section. Like you're not going to be creating this and putting it in saved reports so that somebody can run the QBO looking reports. It's its own separate reporting entity, right?
Right. But actually, one thing I want to point out is the polling question done? Is done, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just point out, look, 63% of you have a better perspective of QBO advanced in the past year, maybe because you tried it, maybe because of training like this, something like that. 4% of you are not so turned on by it. And, Intuit's job is to make sure that number is 0 and stay the same. Again, I think that every year your perception of QBO Advanced should increase because their price has increased every year. So like if they're gonna make the price higher, they gotta make sure that the at least perspective of value needs to be higher too. But one thing I want to point out is the Performance Center, which is the place where you have these sort of graphical type of reports. I don't know if you have noticed, but this is also not a real-time reporting system. This is also a couple of hours behind. And the reason why I want to point that out is because the engine that contains the data for the custom report builder and for Performance Center is the same. So the as they improve let's say the refresh time in the custom report builder, they're also going to improve the refresh time in the Performance Center. And it will be nice that at some point, it would be nice that you can go from a custom report to a graph somehow, kind of like the way in Excel where you build a table and you graph from there. That would be super cool when they get to the point where we can move from a custom report to a graph. So we'd have to build the graph from scratch. I think that's important too, because that delay in database, the second syncing of the data, that's something you have to think about. Again, I don't think it's a problem. Most people are not worried about changes you made to the accounting the last couple of hours. But for me, who's testing the app and discovering what it shows and what it doesn't show, that will be nice to have a push button or something so we can refresh. I think I'm done. I can give you the power back to do the outro. So I'm going to stop sharing. Dan, Michelle, thank you for having me and Intuit. Thank you for supporting us educators that are trying to make the world more aware of QuickBooks.
Yeah, Hector, I just was going to say thank you so much. I mean, this reporting stuff is a very, very powerful tool for us. And so for you to show us some of the things that it can do and the capabilities, as well as the limitations, I think was awesome. So thank you for your time and joining us. It's good to see you on the Power Hour again. As always, love to get you on here. Dan, thank you for all that you do. I know you guys can wrap it up, but I got to jump because I've got to get to something myself. So thanks, everybody. Thanks again, Hector. Bye.
Thanks, Michelle. And yeah, just coming up in the next couple weeks, we'll be having the niche nuances with Geeta Faust again. She'll be doing real estate flips.
Do you want to share your screen?
I was just going to talk about it.
Yeah.
But, okay. But it's all on the handouts. You can go to the QB Power Hour website to grab the handouts. But we'll be talking about real estate flips with Geeta Faust next, and then Money Thumb will be after that. And then I'm going to have in September a couple of my clients who actually do sell on Amazon. They're going to talk about the challenges of working with the big A, and some of the things that have challenges in their sales that come over to QuickBooks. So we'll have like a panel from the business owner perspective as far as working with Amazon. And that'll be in September. So Hector, again, thank you so much for joining us today and staying longer. Your time is super valuable, and I appreciate you giving it all to us today. And we look forward to seeing what happens to you in the future. And we hope to see you all next time on the QB Power Hour.